Laken.
I think your fake eyelashes are messing up.
If someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body, that would not be engaging in personality.
Hello, everybody. How are you guys doing? How are you guys feeling? Welcome back to my channel. Hey, guys, I miss you guys so much. Now, it's your girl Mo, and today we need to talk about something that's been kind of trending for, I'll say, all the wrong reasons, okay? Like the way Marjorie Taylor Greene, she used the say her name at the 2024 State of the Union. Y'all, that's just diabolical. Just, diabolical. Now, if you know where, that slogan really comes from, and who it was meant to protect, you know exactly why this is a problem, right? And we gonna get into it. Like, let's get into it. Now, the real meaning of say her name, right? So say her name wasn't like created to talk about every tragedy. It was actually created for Black women who, have been killed by police or ignored by the justice system, right? So this was a call. It was like a call of actions that came from, I believe her name is Kimberly Crenshaw. I want to make sure I'm saying that lady's name right. And in the African American Policy Forum in 2020, it was actually 2014, not 2024. Sorry, 2014. To make sure that we didn't forget women like Breonna Taylor, Sandra Bland, the list goes on. So many others, right? It was born out of pain, silence, and just the reality that even in, our own moments, Black women names are often the last ones mentioned, right? So when Marjorie Taylor Greene, a white Republican Congresswoman, stood up, at the State of the Union and yelled, say her name, about a murdered white college student, that wasn't, just tone deaf. In my opinion, it was actually, intentional appropriation. Now, no one is saying that, the person in which she talked about isn't a tragedy or whatever, but using a phrase rooted in Black advocacy to make a point about, immigration, and push political agendas, like that's where, the harm was happening, in my opinion. And let's be real, this isn't new. The Black slogan and movement, gets watered down or hijacked all the time. And it usually happens when white people want attention for something that has nothing to do with, they want attention literally for nothing to do with our struggle. Like they don't have nothing to do with our struggle, but want all of the praise behind it. And that's the problem, Why I feel as though this is like deeper than just a slogan. Now, this isn't just about, a few words. It's about how Black pain gets, co-opted, in my opinion, over and over again. We're expected to stand on the front lines, protest, die, and then watch our, language, our movements, and our labor get used to kind of serve everybody else. So the question becomes, why is it okay to hurt Black people just to protect whiteness? Why can't white communities create their own advocacy tools, their own movements, without borrowing or stealing from Black grief? Like, the answer is rooted in history. Just America has systems that were built to protect whiteness at all costs, even if it means stepping over the bodies of Black women to do it, and it's just absolutely insane. Like, while Marjorie is yelling, say her name on national TV, there are still Black women and girls going missing every day with no media coverage, no outrage, no justice. So instead of hijacking a slogan, maybe we should be demanding justice for the women it was made for, in my humble opinion. Let's talk about the Black women whose names were still not said. Like people still don't know it, because the system refuses to care. And let's be clear, this isn't about division. It's about respect, respect, just respect. respect for the origin, like where the name came from, respect the message, respect the people it was created for, you know? And the thing is, Marjorie Taylor Greene has a long, well-documented history of making statements and supporting policies that many see as harmful or dismissive of the black people, of the black community, you know, and communities of color, you know? And the crazy part about it is, you know, her use of the phrase like say her name, that like we're talking about, you know, it didn't happen in a vacuum. It's a pattern, you know, a rhetoric, and actions that often feel like anti-black, you know, and racially insensitive or just outright just inflammatory, in my humble opinion, you know. She just has done just a lot. Greene like reportedly dismissed the Black Lives Matter movement. She was calling them, you know, terrorists. And, you know, she just has a history of doing a lot of just unfair things, okay, in my humble opinion. You know, she called Black Lives Matter protests domestic terrorism, but at the same time, she was out here defending the January 6th insurrection, you know, and it's crazy. She was minimizing, and she minimized police brutality by focusing instead on the law and order rhetoric that historically silenced conversations about systematic racism, you know? And the reason why this matters is because you can't just claim to care about a murdered woman while disrespecting an entire movement built to protect women like her, especially black women who never got, you know, the national outrage, you know? And I just think it's just insane. Like, she just has a history, you know? She had the entire voter, you know, suppression and election denial in the black communities, you know? And this is why you know that she's just not being genuine, you know. Greene actually supported Donald Trump's efforts to, you know, overturn the 2020 election, which, in my, well, I'm not even going to say in my opinion, because I just believe that this is just the truth, you know, which I would say centered heavily on contesting votes in majority black cities like Detroit, Atlanta, you know, Philadelphia. She has also praised and supported voter suppression laws pushed in Georgia, you know, which I just feel as though it was very, I would say, going against black voters, you know. It just went against black voters, you know. And I think this matters because when you know, challenge the legitimacy of votes and in just votes in black communities, but not white royal towns, you know, like it's not about fraud, you know, it's just you're targeting racial control. And that's just crazy to me, you know. It just goes on and on, the different things that she's done. You know, Greene has associated, and she associates and sympathize with white nationalists, and I just think that that's just absolutely insane, you know. She has shared platforms with far right, you know, figures who have promoted racist conspiracies and theories, you know. She also promoted the Great Replacement theory, which falsely claims that white people are being replaced by people of color, you know, through immigration and political power. And this is just insane. So all of this that she's saying now, or, you know, trying to make it seem like she's just so innocent, I don't know. I just don't believe her, in my humble opinion. I just don't believe her. And, you know, her decision to appropriate the whole say her name, a black feminist-led campaign meant to bring attention to police violence against black women felt especially targeted, you know, given her record, you know. Like, she didn't acknowledge the origin of the phrase. She, you know, wasn't concerned for how black women still missing or murdered, how that, you know, what the history is with that, you know. She just had something that she could use against people of color, and she did that. And I just think it's so unfortunate because this is a real situation. Like, somebody did lose their life, and you're trying to use this person story and use this person's situation and their tragedy to further your agenda. And I just think that that's sad, because if your intention was to bring awareness, you actually did the opposite. Now there's all this drama surrounding this tragic situation when that shouldn't be the topic. We shouldn't be talking about the fact that you're using a slogan that was meant to protect black bodies and black women. You know, we supposed to be talking, or your intended purpose was to discuss this tragedy that occurred, and it made you feel away. But the way in which you went about it shows that, nope, that actually was not your, you know, that's you. It wasn't an innocent thing, or you weren't coming from this with the area of, I'm trying to speak up for, you know, a tragedy that had occurred. No, you're speaking from, oh, I'm trying to use this tragedy to further my agenda and further the things that I believe in. And that, to me, is unfair. And if I was that family, I would say something. If I was that family, I would say, hey, stop using our tragedy to promote anything political, because that's not what this is about. But, you know, that's just, I guess people are allowing her to do this. Nobody is checking her in these actions. I don't know, guys. I just think it's a real conversation. You know, just let me know what y'all think, you know, in the comments. Was this an intentional move, you know, by Marjorie Taylor Greene? Do you think that she knew, you know, the history of Say Her Name? Or, like, was this just another example of black labor being used, you know, without credit or care, you know? Just let me know what you guys think about all of this, because I really think this is a real conversation, and I think it's worth discussing, okay? I love you guys to pieces, and bye.
Laken Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal. That's right. But how many of thousands of people being killed by illegals? To her parents, I say, my heart goes out to you, having lost children myself. I understand.